Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the trade report video for the week of February 5th, 2017. Okay, so first up here, let's take a look at the DIA, Dow Jones Industrial Average ETF here. So Friday's action here was very bullish. So looking at the Dow Jones chart here, this was when Trump was elected, had the big run up, and then we had this consolidation. And basically you had the rising 50-day moving average, so you get the price converging on the rising 50-day, which is bullish. And then so first we had this breakout to 20,000, and then when it fell below 20,000, it was a little bit of a concern for me because it seemed like it was a little bit euphoric in the market. But now we're back above that level there, and it looks like we're about to break out and make some new highs. So at this point, everything looks ready for new highs in my opinion. So, and this is confirmed with the other indexes and different sector ETFs as well. So basically the Dow looks like it's going higher now. It's back above 20,000 and it looks really good for new highs. So let's take a look at the small cap IWM ETF. Basically a similar story. We've been kind of consolidating here for about a month and a half and basically converging and bouncing off the rising 50-day here, and it looks like that the small caps are also ready to make new highs. So the IWM Russell 2000 ETF looks very bullish in my opinion. And taking a look at the SPY, kind of a similar story, right? Basically right there on the verge of breaking out and making new all-time highs on the SPY. So everything looks good here for new highs next week in the market. So let's now take a look at some sector-specific ETFs here. Take a look at the XLF, so the financial sector ETF. I believe Trump made a statement about reducing regulations or something like that, and a lot of the financial banks and so forth rallied nicely on Friday. But you can see here basically similar story. You have this sideways consolidation, basically range bound, no real direction, and now it looks like up here, it's right up here at the resistance level, ready to make some new highs. And once again, notice basically the only real moving average I ever use is the 50-day, and you can see here where basically it pulled back to the 50-day and basically bounced off of the 50-day again. So the rising 50-day, and once again, this is one thing that you'll see over and over again is as a stock in an uptrend or a sector will rest after making a big move and then consolidate, and then until it catches up with this rising 50-day, and then oftentimes that's the beginning of a new leg upward as it breaks out of that range. So XLF, the financial sector, looks strong. There's several banks that look good. We got one on our watch list, but there's several others that also look strong. So keep that in mind going into next week. The biotech sector, IBB, also has had a nice rally over the last few days. Several names in the sector. PTLA was one. Let's see, I think it was EXEL was another one. Had some nice breakouts last week. So the biotech sector is picking up, and there's some names setting up in that sector as well. From a pattern perspective on the charts, nothing real clean breakouts or anything like that. It basically held the support area down here, which was good. It's still kind of in a range here. The next level would be up here at this recent high here. So biotechs, at least for now, in the intermediate term, it looks like they're in an uptrend. So we'll keep an eye on that sector going into next week. Let's see, XLE, energy sector, still has some work to do. It has yet to put in, well, let's go back. So it's still in this kind of pattern here, in a downward trend, a downward channel, if you will. So you can see here lower highs, lower lows, and it's below the 50-day. So you can see it's in a clear downtrend at this point. What you want to see is a transition from lower highs and lower lows into a transition of higher highs and higher lows, and then a breakout through this upper trend line here. So, we'll see going into next week if that can change, but the energy sector has yet to kind of turn up and show some bullish price action at this point. So, although there are some individual names that look pretty good, the overall sector looks weak technically. All right, so let's get into some names that I traded last week. It's a pretty good week last week. Did pretty well so far for 2017. My personal trading account is up, I think, around 46%, so that's pretty good. And a lot of that came from some marijuana plays that have been pretty hot. And we'll talk about the trades we made this week. So first up, let's take a look at FCX. So this was one that I traded last week, and then I cut this one Friday morning. And so the pattern I was looking at was basically, I was looking at the copper sector and the copper commodity that was basically showing a bullish pattern here. So let's really quick, let's take a look at copper. So this was kind of an ascending triangle pattern that I was seeing in copper, and it basically broke down. Okay, so I think what happened was, see, this was the pattern. It looked like an ascending triangle, and I thought copper was going to break out and make some new highs, but then basically Thursday afternoon, I think, China came out and said they're going to tighten their monetary policy, which for whatever reason, caused copper to gap down overnight. And so going into Friday, I knew that FCX and, let's see, HBM was the other one, were going to basically open up weak. And so I was ready to sell. And that's exactly what I did. So once this pattern failed, it was time to exit. And so let's take a look back. FCX basically followed a similar pattern as the copper. So I was looking at this recent high around 17 for a breakout. And I was using this trend line here. Let me move this over as a support level, and you can see that failed. Instead of breaking out, it opened up right around here and started to fall. And so I cut that one at around 16.58, I think, which my entry point was down here around 15.50 somewhere. So I made profit on it, but not as much as I would have liked to. But that's okay. Not every trade's going to work out, and you have to be willing to cut the ones when the pattern fails. And so I still made some profit on it, and you can see here where it just basically fell off, basically invalidating the pattern. So there's no trade here at this point, and the sell-off was on big volume, so it is what it is. So there's FCX. Let's see, next up, another trade that I traded last week, which I had to take a loss on, was TZA. So when the Dow basically dropped back below 20,000, it seemed kind of like a bearish move, and I thought, okay, well, we're going to get a few days of weakness, and maybe this thing can get a few days of rally here. So I was looking at this chart here, TZA, and so basically this kind of resistance level up here. And so the day that I bought it was on this day right here, and I think I bought it, above 20, and then it faded back, and the next day it gapped up and started to fade, and so I went ahead and took my loss on this one as the market started to recover. So it was a small loss on this one, but you can see now it's way down here. So that just goes the importance, guys, of making sure that you don't get so fixated on your opinion on direction. If a pattern fails or something, if the market's not confirming your opinion, then go ahead and cut it. You can always buy it back later, and most of the time you're going to be thankful that you did. So this is one where I took another small loss and moved on, and it turns out the market recovered very nicely and actually looks like it's heading higher to new highs now. So um, that's TZA, another trade from last week that I made. SSRI, so this is another one. This is a silver mining company, and so I'm looking at this pattern here, and so it looked like a bull flag was forming, basically putting this consolidation range right around this 10, I think it was around 1050 area, right? And so after this rallied up here, and it basically, instead of moving down lower, if you take a look at longer term, so you can see here basically a drop down, sideways, new lows, sideways, new lows, sideways, new lows. This one actually rallied up, and then instead of falling, it actually traded in a tight range. So had a really clear resistance level, this SSRI, right around this area here, so 1050. And also you could look at not just this name, but the Silver Miner Index SIL. You could look at GDXJ, which is the gold mining, junior gold mining sector. And they were all showing similar patterns. So when you start to see similar patterns, bullish patterns in the sector, once again, it helps confirm your trade idea. And so this one looked like it was basically a bull flag pattern here between this range. And then, so I entered here at 1050 on this day here, expecting a breakout. The breakout failed. The next day it actually dropped down lower, and then it actually closed back above the 1050 spot. So even though intraday it kind of pulled back and dropped below the 1050 spot, it actually closed back above it. And so I held my position, right? Intraday fluctuations don't mean as much to me as the closing price. And so I try to focus on the closing price in the daily chart versus intraday fluctuations. So, and then this one actually gapped up, and the last 2 days it's held right around 11. So I closed my position out at 11, my first half of my position, and then my other half also right around 11 on Friday. So, however, these silver plays, the gold plays, they still look bullish to me. But I just wanted to lock in some gains going into next week. And so I'll keep an eye on it though, but I do think that the silver, the gold sector does look strong going into next week. And we can look at GDXJ, which is the junior gold miner sector. So let's draw a trend line here. See, basically the same pattern here. Had this right around $38 here. You know, kind of this flag pattern, this sideways consolidation, and it broke out, and it's holding above there. And so the gold mining sector, silver miners, they still look pretty good. And you know, once again here in a downtrend, you can draw peaks across the highs. See that? And then there's the lows across the lows. And so there's your downtrend channel, and then when it broke that and consolidated. So I do think that going into next week, I like gold and silver, and I may enter one of these silver gold names going into next week. So we'll keep an eye on that sector. I think it still looks bullish at this point. All right, let's go to another trade that I made last week. TRQ. So this was another one I had to cut for a loss, small loss, right? So looking at this chart, it looked to me, and this was also based on the premise of copper. It's also, I think, a big copper mining company, of breaking out through this resistance level here, okay? So right in this area here, 368, 370 was a key resistance, and then it finally broke it. And if we zoom in, basically it's right around this 370. Let's see, 370, 375. So let's zoom in to a 30-day. And so I'm looking at this level here, this 370, which breaking this level gives you a new 52-week high, okay? And that's exactly what it did. And so what I did is, on this day, intraday, I entered on the pullback to this 370 level, right on 372, thinking, okay, this is going to be a support level, and if it holds, then, you know, that'll be my risk. And sure enough, going into Friday, when the copper sector or the copper commodity started going down, and it's basically the same thing as FCX, this one started to fail, so I cut it. So I took a small loss. I forget exactly where I cut it. I think it was in the high 360s somewhere, but then it fell off a cliff there. So heed the warning signs, guys. When the stock's not doing exactly what you think it's going to do, or starts to go against you, just cut it. You can always get back in, and at this point, no trade for TRQ right now. But another loss that I had for the week was TRQ. HBM is another one that I basically cut for break even. It was also a trade based on copper. This one actually it hasn't broken down. It actually looks still pretty good for now. It looks like it's consolidating in this kind of sideways tight range. I bought it at 8 and I think I closed it out at 7.95 or something. So it was basically a break even, but it's a gold mining company and it also does copper mining. But so this one maybe would be a buy if it breaks out of this flag. This flag pattern still looks pretty good though. So maybe I would trade this one if it breaks out. Because I do think the gold and silver sector still looks strong at this point. So this one could be a trade next week. I'll keep an eye on it. Not a top watch, but I will keep an eye on that one. So next up, let's take a look at Buds. So Buds was a nice trade on Thursday. So I had put this on the watch list here. Basically with this 425, I think was the spot. It had this nice ascending triangle. Okay, see that pattern there? And so going into Thursday, this thing started to ramp up, and I thought this thing was going to break out. In the morning, I was watching it; it was moving up, and then at the end of the day, it started to perk up, and I noticed expanding volume. See expanding volume on this day here versus the relative volume. And so at around 410, I bought a position, and then I added a position on this 425 break, and the thing just rallied all the way up to $5. So very nice trade there, and I'm still holding the position, and we'll see if this thing can go higher. And basically my risk on the trade is the breakout level 425. It actually pulled back that level and rallied back up. So I think this one could have some more upside here. It's now in a new 52-week high. Or maybe even an all-time high for this one. And these weed plays can often have multi-day runs here. You can see back here where I had 3 days, and this was a new breakout. So I think this one could have some more momentum left in it. So Buds, that was a nice trade, and I'm still holding that position right now. Next up, Sing, S-I-N-G. So this chart must be showing the after hours price. This one actually closed right up near 6 cents. And so this was the same kind of pattern as Buds, right? Another weed play, and it had this ascending triangle, and it had this recent high right around 5 cents, okay? So that was the recent high. And I was watching this on Friday for a breakout. As I mentioned in the private Twitter feed, both CBIS and Sing I was watching very closely. And so this one, as it started to move up towards the 5 cent level, I took a position, and it rallied basically all day. It took some rest intraday, and then as it got near 6 cents, which was my original target, I went ahead and took the position off. So I made 17% on the trade. And maybe it goes higher, maybe it pulls back, but basically, the same pattern as Buds, same pattern as CBIS, same pattern, of the weed plays that we've traded MSIG, so they're all basically the same pattern, and once you learn to spot them, you can trade them very profitably. So this one actually, like I said, this one closed up near 6 cents on big volume. So this one could very well go higher, but I'm okay with taking a 17% gain in one day, and then just reevaluating. That's fine with me. So sometimes you end up missing out on more upside. For example, ACOL, take a look at this one. You know, I traded this one back here, bought it, and I think I sold it on the same day for like a 15-20% gain, and then you can see this thing just had an absolutely huge move and then crashed. So I mean, sometimes I sell too soon, but that's okay, you know. It's okay to sell too soon. It's because you never know when these type of big crashes are going to happen in the OTC land. So, but if you make 15, 20, 30, 50%, that's pretty good. And if you can do that over and over again, you know, that's where you start to compound your account. So, all right. So next up, let's take a look at AQXP. This is a biotech that's been consolidating for quite a while. So 1850 area is kind of where the resistance was. And let's remove this one. So yeah, this one had a high right around 1850, pulled back, and then consolidated tightly, and now it's starting to move up. So it's still very early, this AQXP, in the breakout, but technically it is a breakout because it's actually the highest closing price. Actually, Thursday closed at the highest price in this range, even though it had some wicks up here. This one closed at the highest price, and then it closed even higher on Friday. So this one I think could have some more upside. And if I'm looking to trade this one, I would probably look for a target. Looking at the depth of this pattern overall, maybe 1650 is the average depth. So 1650 to 1850. So 1950, 2050. So basically 2050 would be a first target on this AQXP. And also remembering that the IBB had a nice rally Friday and could continue with momentum into next week. AQXP looks like a pretty good play set up for next week. PTLA, this was a nice pattern here. Another nice ascending triangle here at 2610 area. And then had the big breakout, and then it's had several days of up since then. So if you traded this one, I didn't catch it. If you traded it, you know, you should be doing pretty well here at this, if you entered somewhere around this 2610 area. If you're looking at a profit target on this one, once again, you know, you can take the average depth of the pattern here. So the maximum depth here is down here at 2250, and the high is 2610. So maybe, you know, maybe 3.5 points. So that would give you a target, you know, right around 30 area, which is actually pretty close to that now, 29.32. So I think 30 is a good profit target. First target on this one, and then you could leave a trailer for more upside if you want. So that was a nice breakout there in PTLA. CVSI, this is a weed play that I had to cut. I had this pattern here. I thought it had a nice ascending little wedge pattern here. It was going to break out through like 58, and it didn't do so. You know, it kind of basically failed and broke down out of this pattern and basically pulled back to a support level around 48 and then had a little rally. So, I mean, this one's still range bound at this point. Still looks like, you know, still range bound between, say, 45 and 58. So maybe if it can get back up here to 58, you know, maybe I'd take a, you know, buy that one. But right now, no trade there left in CVSI. So AERI, another biotech. It's basically a breakout. See this range here, had a high here right around 42.50, and then it's, you know, it's basically the highs. It's now broken out of this range, and but it's not really extended at this point. So this is another biotech that looks like it's going to go higher. Basically, let's see, there's a pattern, something like that. Maybe you could use this trend line as your support level. So you can see here clearly that it's got this kind of higher high, higher low, kind of stair-step action going on here. Not a real dynamic mover, but still looks bullish. So if you're interested in trading that one, it looks pretty good. So some was one that I traded on this breakout here, and it broke out of this range, and then I sold it around 26. And so now this is a good example of a breakout pullback that's playing out right now. It had the breakout, and then it pulled all the way back here and kind of finding support around this 25 area, which was prior resistance. So you'll see that quite often, these breakouts, and then they pull back to the support level, and then they head back up. So this one looks pretty good. Nothing really fantastic on the chart. It's not a really dynamic mover, but this one's, what I'm seeing on here is it's going to hold this support here and probably start heading back up. So if you're interested in trading some, it looks like it's now beginning the whole stair step higher with higher lows. This is the first higher high out of the range. This is a higher low, and then it, maybe comes back here and tests this 26 and then makes new highs. So IPI, Intrepid Potash, nothing really changed here. I was looking for this one maybe to kind of break out of this downtrend line, but so far it's still in this range here, this kind of a downward descending channel here. It does look like it's holding this 50-day moving average, kind of consolidating around it, rallied off of it, kind of pulled back to it. So if this one can perk up, maybe through 220 area, I'd get interested. So we'll keep an eye on this one too. But as of right now, no real trade there on IPI, just on the monitor. ACAD, this is a biotech, and one that I didn't trade, but I had it on the watch list last week, and so I had this recent high at 33, and then on this day would be your trigger there to buy as it broke out through this 33 area, and you can see on that day, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, you can see the expanding volume, which is what you want to see on a breakout, and so as it broke through that 33 area on expanding volume, that would be your trigger to buy, and this one. For a profit target, the depth of this pattern is 29 to 33, so it gives you $4. So you can add $4 to 33, and you can see where intraday it actually got all the way up to that first profit target, and then it pulled back. So 37 would have been your first target on this ACAD on the breakout. This one could head higher now. It's with the biotechs being strong, but I don't really see an entry point at this level. It would have to set up again to give you an entry. It's kind of extended from the 33, so no trade there at the moment. ESIO, this one had a nice pattern here, although it had earnings, and so it was one that I didn't want to trade going into earnings, but did have a nice pattern here on this 660 area, or maybe it was 650, I think. So 650 breakout on this day, and then it broke, and then I guess the earnings, investors liked the earnings, so it actually gapped up, and so now it's just kind of consolidating up here. So this one could be heading higher. Let's see what the longer term chart looks like. Yeah, I'm not seeing too much on the longer term chart, so this one I probably wouldn't trade. It's not the prettiest, so I'll probably stay away from ESIO. But it had a nice pattern, nice breakout, but it had earnings, so can't really buy when they have earnings. So Excel, nice breakout here at the resistance level, right in this area here. And then, so the depth of the pattern, let's say 1740 to 1920. So I don't know, maybe $2. So this one went from had a breakout and then closed up here at 2050. So now it's a little bit extended for a buy point, but with biotech strong, this one could be could be going higher, but the trigger, the key pivot point, was the 19 breakout. So Cinta, yeah, so I don't know what happened here with this one. Had a big sell-off, I guess. Had a false breakout there. Had a nice spot at 32.40. 1, 2, 3, and then 4, and it looked like it was going to go, and then it just gapped and failed. Maybe it had bad earnings or some kind of news. I don't know. But so anyway, failed pattern, and nothing to trade on that anymore. All right, so let's talk about next top trade ideas for Monday. So first up is this Cibus. So Cibus is a marijuana play, and we can see here that I traded this one when it broke out here through the 7 cents, sold it at around 10, and then it went all the way to 12, and actually the wicks went higher. But when I'm looking at this chart, I'm looking at the closing prices, opening and closing prices for my resistance levels. And so the 12 cent level, if you use that as your metric, is right around 12 cents. So that's the key level that I'm watching on this Cibus. And so this one broke, pulled back almost to the breakout level back here, 7, rallied back up to 12, acted as resistance, and then put in this higher low right around here, and then rallied back to 12. So this one looks like it's going to break through 12, probably Monday or Tuesday, and I've got a position in this one. It looks a lot like Buds did. It looks a lot like Sing did, and also looked a lot like MSIG. Let's take a look at MSIG real quick. So MSIG, kind of a similar story, which I missed, but had this level here. See, we're at 40, like basically 40 cents, pulled back to the level, and then three sideways days, and then just wham, had a big nice red day. So MSIG still looks strong. It's got some resistance up here at 50 cents, but if this one breaks 50, it might actually be a buy trigger again. And I know if you look at the run on this thing, look at this run from 4 cents to 50 cents. It's been a massive run. You have the first breakout back here at 20 cents, which we traded successfully, and then I had this pullback, and then the next important level was this 40, right? And then it had a nice push through 40, and so now it's up here at 50. So, who knows how high these things are going to go? But if you get a breakout through a key resistance level on expanding volume, a trade is a trade. So you gotta pull the trigger when the pattern says to go. But so that's MSIG. Just kind of wanted to show the parallels between that one and Cibus. So Cibus was the 7 cent level, and then now the important level is 12 cents. And it looks good. It looks really good. So Monday, we'll look for kind of this thing to break through 12 cents and get some expanding volume. And if you're looking for kind of a level to get out of, I would use probably kind of this trend line here. So maybe Friday's low would be a trigger to get out if it doesn't actually follow through and break through 12 like we're expecting. But it looks really good, and I really think this thing's going to go. So we'll see. Quick. So the semiconductor sector, there's a lot of names. EMKR is another one, and I think ENTG is another one. But the semiconductor stocks have been really strong. The sector's strong. And this one looks prime. This is another top watch for Monday. I don't have a position in it yet, but let's see here. Let's take a longer term look here. So you can see this longer term had this big downtrend, and then so it's been really beaten down. But now it's got this, it's kind of rallied, had this big move up, and it's putting in a nice ascending triangle, which is a very bullish. So what I'm seeing on this one, I'd be using, so here's the resistance level right at like 155 area. And then you've got this basically this pattern here, right? So it's tested this area right around this 155 area a couple of times. Yes, it looks a little better there. So right around this 150 spot. And here's what I'm seeing. Basically this pattern here. So I'll likely enter this one on the break of 155 on Monday or Tuesday, whenever it happens, if it happens. So quick is another top watch for Monday. ZFGN, a biotech, nice spot here around 425. So it's tapped it once, twice, 3 times, and then kind of this ascending triangle type pattern here. So look for this one to break through 425, and that would be a buy trigger. For me, with the biotech sector strong, gives you, this one looks like it's really going to go. So QSR, this is a bigger cap company, but it's got a really nice pattern right around this 50 spot. It's got some resistance. It's a restaurant stock. Restaurant stock's been looking pretty good. You know, Popeyes has a nice looking pattern. Wendy's looks good. And so this one through 50 would be a buy trigger on this QSR. Nice ascending triangles. Tested that level 3 times. So I wouldn't, I'm looking for this one to break. And remember, that's not a fast mover, but it could give you a nice profit. QSR. And then another one that I'm going to add to my top watch list is this Wendy's. So Wendy's, you can see this one has this habit of, once again, you can see clearly the 50-day moving average at play. See this 50-day moving average right here, right in here. It found support, and this was a nice breakout pattern here. So it had this move up, consolidation, converge on the 50-day, and then broke out, and then ran all the way up, consolidated again, right? Caught up with the 50-day right in here, and now it's bouncing off the rising 50-day. So resistance level is 14 on Wendy's, and if this one can break through 14, I will likely enter Wendy's on the breakout through 14. So keep this one on your watch list for next week as well. I didn't include it on the email, but this one looks really good. MDR, this is an oil play. I don't know why it doesn't draw these lines. Come on. So right up here, here's the pattern you're seeing here, the recent high, which is right around this 832 spot, 833 area. I'd be looking for a breakout of that to buy it. And then your target, if I'm using this depth of this pattern here, 750 is about the average depth, and the high is 830 area. So right around 80 cents, I guess, would be a good profit target. So maybe $9, a little over $9 would be a first target on this MDR if it breaks. Let's see, boom, another nice consolidation here, rising 50-day, bouncing off of that, and so the resistance is right around 1680 level. So this one would be one to watch for a breakout through 1680, and then you just use the depth of the pattern as your first target. It's kind of a lower volume stock, but the pattern looks good. And then last one we'll take a look at is this GBNK, which is a bank. And so this one is an early stage breakout through 25. So it hit this level once, twice, 3 times, and then it finally broke out. So still early to get in this bank, and I do think the banking sector is going to be heading higher based on the XLF financial ETF chart and there's several names in the banking sector that have a similar pattern to this one. So you can take a look at that sector and see if you can find some other names. but a lot of them look like this. And once again, take the depth of the pattern here, say 2350, and use 2350 to 25. So I'd give you $1.50 profit, or profit target from this breakout. And so that's the bank GBNK. All right, guys, that's all I got for today. And so to sum it up, biotechs, banks look good going into next week. CBIS looks good for a breakout, and the markets look strong. It looks like the markets are heading into new highs, and so at this point I'm bullish on the markets, and I think they're going to new highs. And hope you guys enjoy the Super Bowl. If you have any questions, if you want me to take a look at any charts for you, if you whatever you need help with, just shoot me a message on Twitter, or you can email me. So, all right, guys, have a great Sunday, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.